I've been thinking about this intangible concept over some time now that affects every human being and even trips up every human being from time to time. And we haven't mastered the art and psychology of this particular concept. But I want to bring it to the forefront because it is something that can help us mentally, emotionally, and even academically. And this is something that I believe that tripped me up over anything else in my 1L year. And it's a very important lesson to take away and to use going forward. And this is the concept of transition. Change and transition to me are different things. Change is an event. We got academically dismissed from law school. That's an event. We lose a job. That's an event. However, transition is the psychological, emotional, financial, relational processing of the change of an event. Think about it as I talked about discouragement. How it's that time gap of what we are expecting, wanting, and what actually happens in reality, and we don't get it. And how we mentally, emotionally, spiritually process it, and how do we shift and prepare to the next life event. And do we carry those same mental, emotions, spiritual of that past event and carrying on to the next event? And that's just in a grand life sense. But on our level, academically, I'll just talk about it from what I believe that tripped me up and how transition truly matters. So I worked my butt off 3 years trying to get into law school, trying to get the highest score that I can to get into Georgia State University College of Law. Got denied fall 2015. I made the transition mentally and emotionally. Like, okay, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to transition well, go back to the drawing board, another year, got into law school for fall 2016. But see, this is where the transition really messed me up. Transitioning from college, master's program, undergraduate program, into law school. So I worked my butt off. I was on a high, working so hard that when I got into law school, I didn't transition well. I still had old study habits, behaviors, ways of thinking, ways of deciding how to approach things in terms of study, in terms of learning, my whole learning style. I didn't transition that. I was still bringing old ways into a new event, a new playing field. These old ways were not conducive to serve me, to allow me to succeed at the highest level into law school. As we know, law school is a different way of learning. It's more intense, it's more fast-paced. So if we're bringing in old stuff into law school, yeah, some people get by and pass 1L year, but how long does that sustain itself? So I've been looking at competitive sports, content, and games, and just observing human nature, period, where you can be losing in the first quarter, second quarter, heck, even at halftime. But it's that team, it's that fighter who can transition from one round to the next. That team who can transition mentally and emotionally to one quarter to the next and play it out all the way to the end. Just because you're winning first quarter or second quarter, it doesn't mean anything. That's not the entire game. Yet, just think about when we are winning, when we are succeeding, just a natural human tendency. When we're achieving, we have this tendency to just kind of just be complacent, and we feel entitled to more success. But when actuality, success, achieving, winning is only momentary. It's not continuous. Just because you win one game doesn't mean that you're going to win the next game. And just because you win a championship title one year doesn't mean that you can repeat that same success the next year. It's really hard to repeat success in competitive performance, especially when it comes to championship titles, especially in football. It's very rare that a team repeats championships or even combat sports. It is very rare, and it's a hard, tough thing to maintain and sustain. So I see that with our academics, where we're only as good as our last at bat, as the saying goes in baseball, where you can hit a home run one time, but you get up that next time and you can completely strike out. So I believe it is a matter of upgrading our standards, upgrading our habits, upgrading our approaches, our strategies, versus feeling entitled or thinking that what has worked for us in the past and these patterns that has helped us, you know, that saying goes, if it's not broke, then don't fix it. Little do we know that that thing that we are banking on, we're counting on, is bound to be broken, because we can't bring that into a new level, a new realm that we are stepping in. And that goes for academics or just personal life, period. We hold on to so many things that we think that works, and we are holding on to old structures, old beliefs that think that are going to serve us going forward. Yes, some things do. But when it comes to competition, when it comes to the law, think about it. Case to case, deal for deal. Just because you win one case, win one deal, doesn't mean you're going to win it the next time. So it's, I believe, taking mental and emotional stock every single time when you do achieve, when you get success, and even when you do lose. It doesn't matter winning or losing. It's what we do with them, because sometimes success, victory leads to nowhere. Sometimes if we get entitled, we want to just take a break and be complacent. We don't have that hunger. Little do we know, that competitor, that challenger that we're going against is more hungrier. They're not thinking about tradition. They're thinking about creative strategies. And here we are trying to hold on to what we think serve us. No, it's about thinking in new ways, new patterns, new strategies, new approaches. And that is what tripped me up. I was holding on to this so much that that transition just ate me alive. Think about high school. Transitioning from middle school to high school. How that transition sometimes is not the best. And high school to college is it's messy. And I think about a competitive performance. Just because someone in college is so great, and then they go number one in the draft, sometimes it doesn't transition. Sometimes it doesn't translate into the pros. That sometimes that athlete is what we consider to be a bust, a dud, that they just don't pan out. So I believe the transition, whether we succeed or we don't get what we want, the outcomes that we want, mentally and emotionally, I believe is detaching from that success, that achievement, that failure, that loss, what we don't get what we want, and going at it in a new way, thinking in a new way, believing in a new way, strategically maneuvering in such a new way, looking at ourselves, auditing ourselves. That's all that matters. And I see going back, and even in this academic dismissal period, we have to detach so much from what has happened, that past performance is not us. And getting within ourselves and saying that, hey, we are greater, we are bigger than our past performance. It's what we refuse to remain, and that we can transition well, or we can transition poorly and stay where we are. But going back, I see the importance of transitioning, that even on a day-to-day basis, that sometimes we may be off, we may be inefficient, but how can we translate and transition from one day to the next? Are we holding on, overjudging ourselves of how we were, how we did yesterday or 2 weeks ago? But can we think about it anew, in a fresh way, in a creative way, and play and study and work like this day, this particular event, this moment has a history of its own. Not bringing the future into it, not bringing the past into it, but being where our feet are, being in the moment. So I see the importance of it when I go back, the 1L year, dominating it, of course, but not holding on to the strategies that worked for me that particular 1L year, that I can sit down, take stock, and prepare on a greater level, a higher level for 2L year. And then look at 2L year and then 3L year. So I realized, just reflecting back, how I was just holding on to so much stuff academically, ways of just doing things that I got ate alive. And maybe that holds true for you. I'm not sure. I don't know your situation, but it's something that we can all use in our personal lives, relationships, financial, and even academics, is the transition. I think it's a matter of how are we attaching to events and what has happened, and how are we detaching from it and seeing that that particular circumstance, that occurrence is not us, and that we just have to keep moving. We just have to keep believing, strategizing, maneuvering. That is what I believe being a high-level thinking lawyer is all about, is the transition from one case to one deal to the next. Not just when things don't go the way we want it to go, that it's just, we just mope around and we just quit. No. It's about how we can transition to that, to the next, and to the next, and to the next. That's all that matters. Transition. I believe this is probably one of the videos that is the most powerful mental and emotional concept that we can just take stock, absorb, and really see that success, winning, losing, failing, doesn't really matter. It's about the series, that life is not a game, it's a series of games, that it's not about just one particular event, this one particular game, one particular performance, but winning over time. It's about the long term, outlasting the competition, the competitive performance, outlasting our self-imposed limitations. That's what it's all about. It's all about never surrendering, never bending the knee, as I talked about in another video, to our self-imposed and limitations. Is that we just need to transition mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, and even academically to the next. I don't have the magical formula for this, but I believe the power of detaching is the game, it's the key. And that's been one of my greater strategies, greater superpowers, is not judging myself or overjudging myself of how I was yesterday, what I did yesterday, what has happened, that I can keep going, I can keep rolling. So I hope you can take valuable stock, a valuable message and knowledge and awareness of this concept, is that all that matters is transition, mentally, emotionally, and academically. That it's not over, it's never over. That you got what it takes, and that you're going to put yourself in the best position to be accepted back in. Transition well, my friend. You got this, baby.